Shadowing is one of the most effective techniques for improving pronunciation, rhythm, and fluency in English because it allows learners to immerse themselves directly in the natural patterns of the language. When someone listens to a native speaker and repeats the words at nearly the same time, they are not simply practicing vocabulary or grammar. They are copying real speech in real time. This makes the learning process active rather than passive. Instead of only hearing how English should sound, the learner immediately produces the same sounds, which strengthens muscle memory in the mouth, tongue, and vocal cords. Over time, this leads to more accurate pronunciation because the learner begins to physically feel how native speakers form sounds. Another powerful benefit of shadowing is that it exposes learners to the rhythm and flow of authentic English speech. English has its own unique stress patterns, connected speech behaviors, and intonation patterns that are often difficult to learn from textbooks. By shadowing, learners naturally absorb these features without needing to memorize rules. They hear how native speakers link words together, reduce certain sounds, or emphasize important phrases. When they mimic these patterns, their speech begins to sound smoother and more natural. This rhythm is essential for achieving fluency because fluency is not only about knowing many words, it is about producing them smoothly and confidently. Shadowing also trains the brain to process English more quickly. As learners practiced keeping up with the audio, they force their minds to react faster, recognize words instantly, and produce speech without long pauses for translation. This reduces the habit of thinking in one's native language before speaking. Instead, learners start forming thoughts directly in English, which is a major step toward fluent communication. Over time, the brain becomes more comfortable with the speed of natural conversation, making real-life interactions less stressful and more enjoyable. Finally, the repetitive nature of shadowing strengthens overall fluency. Repeating the same passage multiple times allows learners to notice small details they missed before, correct mistakes, and build confidence. Each attempt becomes smoother than the last. This consistent improvement boosts motivation and leads to long-term progress. The more a learner shadows, the more familiar English speech patterns become, and the more effortless speaking begins to feel. Practicing out loud every day is one of the yet most powerful ways to build confidence in speaking English. Many learners feel nervous or unsure when they try to speak because they are not used to hearing their own voice in English. Speaking out loud helps break this barrier. When a learner practices regularly, the sound of their own English becomes familiar, and familiarity naturally reduces fear. The more they speak, the less intimidating it feels. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment to speak, they start becoming comfortable with making mistakes, correcting them, and moving forward. Daily out loud practice also strengthens the physical aspects of speaking. English uses different mouth movements, intonation patterns, and stress compared to many other languages. These physical habits cannot be developed silently in the mind. They require real vocal practice. When learners speak out loud every day, their tongue becomes more flexible with English sounds. Their mouth adapts to new shapes, and their vocal muscles learn how to produce the rhythm of English more naturally. This physical training plays a big role in boosting confidence because speaking begins to feel smoother and more automatic. Another reason daily speaking builds confidence is that it creates a sense of progress. Many learners struggle not because they lack ability, but because they underestimate how much they have improved. Speaking out loud allows them to hear their development directly. On day one, they may struggle with certain words or feel breathless trying to speak full sentences. But after a week or two of consistent practice, they begin to notice that phrases come out more easily, pronunciation feels clearer, and their pace becomes faster. These small improvements add up and help the learner believe in their own ability. Speaking out loud daily also helps reduce hesitation. Hesitation often comes from overthinking, worrying about grammar, pronunciation, or finding the perfect word. But when a learner practices daily, their brain becomes used to producing English without long pauses. Words begin to come more quickly, and sentences form more smoothly. This mental shift naturally increases confidence because the learner starts trusting their ability to speak without planning every detail in advance. Finally, daily speaking builds a strong habit that supports long-term fluency. Confidence does not arrive all at once. It grows gradually as the learner becomes more comfortable using English in real vocalized practice. Through consistent daily effort, speaking becomes less of a challenge and more of a natural part of everyday communication. Asterisk shadowing trains the brain to think faster in English because it forces the mind to operate at the speed of natural speech, rather than the slower pace learners often use when studying silently or translating from their native language. When someone shadows, they must listen and speak almost simultaneously, which requires immediate processing. There is no extra time to pause, translate, or analyze grammar. This pushes the brain to react quickly, recognize familiar patterns instantly, and produce English without hesitation. Over time, this practice strengthens neural pathways connected to language processing, making English feel more automatic and less mentally demanding during real-life conversations. Another important aspect of faster thinking is the reduced dependence on translation. Many learners slow down because they think first in their native language and then convert their thoughts into English. This translation delay creates awkward pauses and breaks natural communication. Shadowing interrupts this habit by training the mind to directly connect meaning with English sounds, since the learner is repeating phrases exactly as they hear them. Their brain begins to associate ideas with English expressions automatically. Gradually, they begin to form thoughts directly in English instead of relying on their native language. This shift is essential for fast, fluent speaking. Shadowing also exposes learners to the natural speed, rhythm, and flow of English, which helps the brain adjust to real conversational timing. When learners only study through textbooks or slow, controlled exercises, they never get used to the quick pace of everyday speech. Shadowing bridges this gap by providing real-time practice with authentic audio. Even if a learner cannot keep up perfectly at first, the repeated effort helps their brain adapt to faster input. As comprehension increases, so does the ability to respond quickly and confidently, reducing the fear of not understanding or falling behind in conversation. In addition, shadowing strengthens listening skills, which are directly connected to faster thinking. When the brain becomes better at identifying words, recognizing grammar patterns, and predicting what comes next, speaking becomes easier too. Listening and speaking work together, and improvements in one area help the other grow. Faster recognition leads to faster response, and faster response leads to improved fluency. With consistent practice, learners find that their mind no longer freezes when searching for words. Instead, ideas flow more naturally, and sentences form smoothly as they speak. Consistent daily practice, even for just 10 minutes, can create noticeable improvement. Because fluency develops through repetition and steady exposure rather than occasional long study sessions. When learners practice every day, their brain stays actively engaged with English, preventing skills from fading between sessions. Short, regular practice helps the mind absorb new sounds, patterns, and vocabulary more efficiently. With each daily effort, the learner reinforces what they learned previously, building a strong foundation layer by layer. This steady reinforcement is far more effective than studying intensely once in a while, because the brain retains information better when it is reviewed frequently in small amounts. Daily practice also helps build momentum. When a learner practices every day, even for a short period, they maintain a sense of continuity and progress. This makes learning feel smoother and more natural. Instead of starting from zero each time, learners pick up right where they left off. Their mouth becomes more comfortable forming English sounds. Their ears become more sensitive to pronunciation differences, and their speaking rhythm becomes more natural. The consistency trains both the brain and the muscles involved in speech, which is essential for long-term improvement. Over time, these small steps lead to big changes, and learners begin to notice they can speak more comfortably and confidently. Another benefit of short daily practice is that it is easy to maintain. Many learners skip practice because they feel they do not have enough time, but 10 minutes is manageable for almost anyone. This small commitment removes pressure and makes it easier to stay motivated. By practicing regularly, learners create a habit, and habits are what lead to real transformation. When speaking becomes a daily routine, the mind starts expecting and preparing for that practice, which accelerates learning even further. The key is not the length of each session, but the regularity that trains the brain to stay connected to. The language. Daily practice also increases exposure to different aspects of English, such as pronunciation, sentence structure, and intonation. Each session gives the learner a chance to refine their skills bit by bit. Even if progress feels slow at first, the improvements build quietly in the background. Eventually, learners begin to notice smoother speech, quicker thinking, and a stronger ability to understand natural English with patience and consistency. 10 minutes a day becomes a powerful tool that leads to noticeable progress and greater confidence in speaking. Following a speaker's tone, speed, and intonation during shadowing helps learners sound more natural, because it allows them to imitate the musical qualities of English. that are often overlooked in traditional study methods. English is not spoken word by word with equal stress. Instead, it has a rhythm that rises and falls, stretches and shortens, depending on meaning and emotion. Learners who only focus on vocabulary and grammar miss this essential layer of communication. By copying the speaker's tone, they learn how emotions, emphasis, and attitudes are expressed in English. This helps them speak in a way that is not only correct, but also expressive and engaging. Mimicking the speaker's speed is equally important. Many learners tend to speak too slowly or too fast, which can make their speech sound unnatural. When shadowing, they adjust their pace to match the natural speed of a native speaker. At first, this may feel challenging, but gradually the learner learns how to manage breath, time their words, and control the flow of their sentences. Speaking at an appropriate speed also improves clarity because learners learn when to slow down for important words and when to allow less important words to glide more softly. This balance creates a more authentic speaking style that resembles natural conversation. Intonation plays a major role in communication. It signals whether a sentence is a question, a statement, a surprise, or an emotion. English speakers use rising and falling pitch to show meaning beyond the words themselves. When learners shadow and copy this, they start to understand how intonation shapes communication. They hear how native speakers raise their voice at the end of questions, soften their tone in polite phrases, or use a sharper tone for emphasis. Over time, learners begin to use these patterns naturally, making their speech more expressive and easier for others to understand. Shadowing also helps learners understand connected speech, where words blend together in natural conversation. This blending affects intonation and speed, and learning it requires listening closely to how native speakers actually talk. By copying the speaker's rhythm, learners begin to adopt the natural flow of English, including how words are linked, shortened, or stressed. This leads to speech that sounds less robotic and more fluid. As learners continue practicing, these natural patterns become comfortable and automatic, allowing them to express themselves more confidently and effectively in real conversations. Asterisk shadowing is an effective technique for all levels of English learners because it adapts to each person's ability and grows with them over time. Beginners benefit from hearing natural English and copying basic phrases, which helps them become familiar with everyday sounds and simple sentence patterns. Even if they cannot match every word perfectly, the exposure builds a strong foundation. Intermediate learners use shadowing to strengthen their fluency, expand vocabulary, and improve pronunciation as they follow more complex audio. Advanced learners can focus on refining their accent, mastering subtle intonation, and polishing their natural speaking style. Because shadowing works at any speed or difficulty level, it serves as a flexible tool that evolves as the learner improves. Another reason shadowing is valuable for all levels is that it helps learners develop confidence in real communication. Speaking alone is very different from speaking with others, and many learners feel nervous when using English in real situations. Shadowing offers a safe environment to practice speaking without fear of mistakes or judgment. It allows learners to rehearse real-life conversations, speeches, and dialogues, which builds comfort and reduces anxiety. As they become more familiar with the patterns of natural English, learners begin to feel more prepared and confident when interacting with others. Shadowing also supports growth because it encourages active listening. Listening and speaking are closely connected skills, and improvement in one strengthens the other. By shadowing, learners train their ears to recognize word connections, sentence rhythm, and tone changes that appear in real conversation. They begin to understand English not only as individual words, but as a flowing, expressive language. This deeper understanding helps them respond more quickly and naturally during real communication, making conversation smoother and more enjoyable. The effectiveness of shadowing becomes even more noticeable when learners combine it with real interaction. After practicing with audio, speaking with classmates, language partners, or native speakers allows them to apply what they have practiced. They find that they can speak more smoothly, hear more clearly, and express themselves more confidently. The skills learned through shadowing become tools they can use in genuine conversation, transforming practice into real-life ability with consistency, patience, and real-world practice. Shadowing becomes a powerful technique that leads learners toward natural, confident, and fluent English communication, guiding them step by step to becoming the speaker they dream to be.